Not too long ago, human rights organization Amnesty International came out in support of the full legitimization of prostitution, meaning it should be a legal business that should be allowed to be carried out. Essentially, Amnesty International has come out on the side of Johns and pimps and the profit motive. Amnesty International, a organization that claims to be dedicated to solving a lot of the poverty in the world, to support human rights, has done one of the single worst things that can be done to women, period. I'm not really surprised that Amnesty International would do this. They are a liberal scumbag organization, so we can't really be surprised when they do liberal things. My problem specifically is with Marxists who are going around supporting this garbage. So let me get this straight. Women go into prostitution because they're poor, which is the vast majority of the reason why they do it. So they're going to cure poverty by paying women to do that thing, which already hasn't worked. So let me get this straight. Rather than curing poverty, we're going to legitimize the absolute worst thing possible for women. I'm sorry, because I kind of thought we were Marxists here. Our point is to abolish the capitalist system and redistribute the wealth of the world, on an equal basis, to raise people out of poverty, to make things better for everyone, to eliminate poverty. But apparently these Marxists are running around saying, well, if we just let women or openly support and enforce, women having things shoved in them for money, then poverty will magically go away. Frankly, I couldn't think of anything that would be more capitalist. Essentially saying, let the free market make poverty go away. Just take what's already, a tremendous problem and then just make it completely legitimate. Then put it out to the market, and then the market will magically fix poverty. I would understand this coming from libertarians, so-called anarcho-capitalists, but this doesn't make any sense coming from Marxists. In fact, they should be denouncing this, and yet a good number of them are in fact supporting it. Now, this is a very common thing from Amnesty International. Of course, they're supporting this position because the overwhelming victim of prostitution are third world women. Overwhelmingly, in the huge majority. The majority of the victims are third world women. It's not unusual for Amnesty International to take the side of the first world over the third world. They tend to be very, very loud about crimes, real and imagined, that third world countries have carried out, yet they seem to be very quiet, very mousy when it comes to the crimes of first world countries. Are we supposed to just ignore the whole, global power structure here? It's not first world women that are being trafficked to the third world to serve as prostitutes. Pardon me, paid for paid rape. Now, it's kind of the other way around. It's the third world women who are the victims. But then again, the third world women who are victims are generally done for the benefit of first world men. There is a tremendous global power dynamic here that's not even being talked about by Amnesty International. And that shows the very first worldist character of not just this position, which you would expect from Amnesty International, but the first worldist position that you would expect by Marxists who are out in the first world. Because you will find a lot, not necessarily first worldists, but Marxists in the first world tend to lean towards the legitimization of prostitution. Yet you go to Marxists in the third world, who are not necessarily third worldists, you will find an aversion to the legitimization of prostitution. You notice that? Probably because they're qualitatively two different things. When we see prostitution in the first world, we see in the media images of the bunny ranch, this glorified image, these $10,000 a night, hookers, these escorts that make thousands of dollars in one night. Of course, this is not the reality of prostitution in the first world, but that is what we're fed. And you bet, sure as hell, this is not the reality of prostitution in the third world, where it exists in conditions that are wholly inhuman. Maybe that's a little bit of the reason why the third world Marxists tend to oppose prostitution and why first world Marxists tend to support it. This is a pro-imperialist position. Essentially, we have a first and a third world, a rich world which exploits a third world. These third world countries end up becoming very dependent upon sex tourism. Cambodia, the Philippines, Thailand, a lot of countries in Southeast Asia particularly become very dependent upon sex tourism. So their countries, their governments specifically, tend not to be really all that, excited or enthused about fighting things like child prostitution specifically. And so because we're too busy trying to look at this and seeing how, when we're not fighting imperialism, we're essentially just letting that sit there and continue to fester. But rather than, fighting poverty, fighting for global equality, fighting for a redistribution of wealth across borders, we end up just supporting a system that causes all that prostitution to begin with. It is from this first worldist people who believe in the legitimization of prostitution should be absolutely ashamed of themselves. One of the most infuriating things about this is watching Marxists defend prostitution. They'll come up and tell you wage slavery is a form of coercion. It's a form of slavery, doing work, trading your labor for a wage. And we got to get rid of wage slavery. But when it comes to prostitution, somehow it should be legitimized. I really don't get the logic there, that if you're a Marxist and you oppose, wage slavery, why you would turn around and support prostitution as the exact same thing. I mean, prostitution, frankly, is the highest form of commodification of a human being. As Marxists, we're supposed to be against commodification. But yet, for some reason, they feel that this is okay. I mean, you're not just exchanging your labor for money. You're exchanging yourself for labor in this situation. So this is actually a higher form of exploitation than just simply doing labor. And when it really comes down to it, I think there is one quote that brilliantly sums up everything as it relates to the legitimization of prostitution. Did everyone's brain fall out? What is the only reason money is ever paid for sex? Because that sex is unwanted. The idea a man could even fathom enjoying unwanted sex with a woman who is repulsed by him is actually psychopathic. It is a human right to never have sex when you don't want to. There's only one word for somebody who enjoys paying to inflict a sex act upon a woman who does not want it. Rapist. Here, Amnesty International, I'll help you out. I'll donate $100 to your organization if you shove one of these up your ass. But don't worry, I'll be paying you to do it, so therefore I won't be doing something bad. I'll be doing something good, just like your views on prostitution. If you like this video and you'd like to see more of them, then head over to my Patreon page and show your support. Or you can go to the MRN bookstore and check out some of the latest books available. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and share on various social media.